You know, I really don't enjoy making videos where I sit here and I talk to you and act like I have all the answers and like I'm telling you what to do, or as though I know anything about your life. Obviously, I know nothing. And I feel like a lot of these podcasts I've been doing lately probably are for a very small number of people that are really hearing the full message that God is sharing through these podcasts. So I just want to let you know, and I'm not responding to any comments about this or anything like that. I'm just saying from my own perspective, I want to let you know that I never want to sit here and act like Mr. Know-It-All by any means, because I'm not at all. And if you knew the history of my life that led me to here, to where I am now here, you would know that me following my own advice or my own guidance has never done me that well. But I have fully given myself to my Creator to serve Him. And I've never been closer with Him, and He's never been closer with me. And in the walk that Him and I have been going on in the last few months has been unbelievable. Unbelievable. He never leaves. He's always here, always, like a best friend, you know. And his voice is so strong. I've said this on many occasions, but it is, and it's that way every day. And I think this is the new power that we're going to start to receive, this dispensation from God in this new age as we transfer into what the world is going to now eventually turn into. So I speak in the name of my Creator. I speak in the name of Christ, not in the name of Travis in these videos. And so if I rub you the wrong way with that, I sincerely apologize. And again, this could just be my own imagination. Like I said, I haven't gotten or seen any comments and things like that of anybody saying it. So I hope that I'm doing all right with that. What I really want to talk about tonight is leaving the cities. And I think it's time to really focus on that if you're in that scenario. And I'm not just talking about necessarily the huge major cities. Those are obvious. If you can get out, get out. Nothing good is going to come of remaining in these cities. And beyond that, it's next to impossible to get out of the system, as we talked about on a couple of podcasts ago. It's time we get out of the system, right? And all things related to the system, so that we can transition and create the world that we as God's people want it to be. So you can't do that and be in a city. It's really impossible, because you're tied in to all of their utilities. You're tied into all of their provisions. You're tied in. You just are. And if the power goes out, the power goes out. If the water isn't going, the water isn't going. There's nothing you can do about it. I mean, look at just what just happened in Texas. And I wasn't paying that close of attention. I know a lot of you probably were paying a lot more close attention than I was, but I saw enough to see there's a lot of people that just weren't prepared at all, and not even remotely prepared. And it kind of boggled my mind, because we've had a year. We've had a year to get prepared for stuff like this. And it was this mass chaos. So you could see on a small scale, when something like that happens and people lose power for days and days and days on end. I don't even know if they're back on all yet. I have no idea. But you see how people break down and how society so immediately breaks down. And you don't want to be around that when and if that happens, because you're not going to have many options for food or water, especially if you're not prepared. Now, in the smaller towns, it's sort of the same. You're still tied into all of the utilities and things like that with electricity and water. But in most cases, as of now at least, it's much easier to get out into the country very quickly in some smaller towns than it is in the larger cities, you know, in case of an emergency or something like that, where you need to get away from people for your own safety or whatever it may be. But still, it's something that we're going to have to get creative with. And like I said, I have no idea where you're at in your life and how you could even consider getting out of a city or making that kind of move. But I think it's going to require some major contemplation and discussions with the people you know that you can trust, that that understand what's coming soon. And like I keep saying, I think we have a little time because God wouldn't be giving me these words that he is lately, these things to speak on, if it was going to happen today or tomorrow, and it was a huge rush. But that doesn't mean we delay. That means we need to get started, getting out. And so what they're already doing now is they're making it really, really hard to move to rural areas. They're making it extremely hard, and kind of it's happening even by default, because like where I am at in Wisconsin, we had been looking, when I was with my now ex, we were in a mid-size city, I guess you could call it, about 20,000, 25,000 people. And then there was a college town, a big college town. So when the college was in session, about another 20,000 students. So, 40, 45,000. And we were living right down by the courthouse. Like, couldn't be in a more government area. Kind of a nasty view out the front window, for 6 years. But so we were looking at buying, or she was, I didn't have any money, but she does, looking at buying a place like in northern Wisconsin, more rural, on a lake, things like that. And she had a pretty hefty budget that she could work with to make that happen. And I'm telling you, we looked and looked and looked and looked for months, and just couldn't find anything. And the few that we did find, good luck getting them, because you couldn't even get a realtor to call you back, let alone get an offer in. And if you do get an offer in, there's already 12 other ones, and houses are going for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 over the asking price because of this rush to rural. So I don't think that our move out of the cities is going to necessarily look like that, and finding some home to buy. Now, maybe you can afford that. Do it. Get out. If it's not a big deal for you to make a move, and you can do it relatively easily, and you can afford it and make it happen, do it. Don't even hesitate. Because you're not going to want to be in that city when the you-know-what hits the fan, and it will. So do it. But for those like me that don't have that option, just to go buy my own place, because I've got shit credit and no money, people like us are going to have to be creative and group up and get power in numbers, even if it's only 2 or 3 or 4 other people. And maybe you can look at doing something like, pooling a few $1,000s together each and finding a plot of land and buying a 5-acre plot of land to start with that. So you have it, and down the line, maybe put a tiny house on it or something like that. Something where you can have a place to go that can be self-sufficient, with tiny houses and things like that. You can have them self-sufficient for the most part. You can use solar and you can use propane and things like that to run them. And you have composting toilets that are really, when we were looking back in a while, I'm still really into the tiny house idea myself, honestly, big time. I think it's perfect for me. One that's like, I think the ones that can go down the road without any special licensing or whatever are 499 square feet or less, certain dimensions. So they kind of make them like that. And then they're basically just rated like campers, like camper trailers. And so you could take them anywhere. They're on wheels, and you set them up and you're good to go. And 500 square feet, for 1 or 2 people is plenty, I think. For me, I've never needed much, And so I really like that idea myself. But you see what I'm saying? Like, that's one idea of something you could say, well, okay, let's get together, and then we have 5 acres, and can you afford a $20,000 or $30,000 tiny house to put here or something just to live in? And maybe start cultivating the land a little bit and growing some stuff. Maybe get a couple animals, get some chickens, I know it sounds silly, but it's not. because we want to be self-sufficient as much as we can be. You know, and the more people you have that you can get together on something like this, the more you can do. And I really think, it's the way we're going to have to go. I don't see another option. We're not going to stop the agenda. We're not going to just put, throw a piece of metal in the cog and stop it all. Maybe we will. I hope so. But isn't it better to be prepared if we don't? And see what's happening. It's happening already. What they want in this agenda, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, whatever you want to call it, but Agenda 21, it really, from what I understand, starts now, and their goal is completion by 2030, so 9 years. So this is the first year, but the ultimate goal is to get everybody in cities, in these big super cities, get all the people cleared out of the rural land so that they can have it all, and get everybody in the super cities on government funded assistance, and not having to work and just get lazy and sloppy. What was that old animated movie with that robot? Oh man, I can't think of it now. But it was probably from like 2008 or 7, and the whole world was run by robots. Robots were handling everything, and all the people were just, it was anime. All the people were just Wall-E. That's what it was called. WALL-E. See, sometimes your brain works, man. That's one thing I've tried to stop doing. When I can't think of something, I try not to automatically go Google it, because that's programming my brain to stop thinking. It's affected us. It's really affected us if you think about it. You don't even give yourself a chance to think and let your brain fire and figure out. So, whatever. But in that movie Wall-E, and the robots were running everything, and it kind of showed our future, like what they want for us. And the humans were just fat, nasty, looking at screens. Weren't even walking anymore. They would just ride around on stuff in their faces, and that's the plan. And so there's multiple ways they're doing that. One way is to make property unaffordable. Make it so that you literally can't afford to buy land, to buy a house out in the country. And that's done in two ways. Obviously, jobs are gone, businesses going under, and so you don't have any money to begin with, and then the properties are skyrocketing. So it's just for elites. It's for people making $100,000 a year or more, which is a very small percentage of the population, especially now. So they're doing that to keep people in the cities. But then beyond that, in the cities, rents are skyrocketing. See, because they want you to rely on the system. They want you to fully rely for all of your money and all of your provisions on government. That's communism. That's communism. And so they want you to rely on all that. So they're going to, when I say they, again, it's the financial people that are in control of all these things. But really it happens organically as they push a few buttons. And organically then, these rents right now, because of what's going on in the economy, are just going sky high, $1,500 a month, $1,700 a month. Meanwhile, people that used to make $60,000 a year are working jobs where they're making 20 or 25. And so it's just setting everybody up to rely on the government for universal basic income. That's what they're calling it now. They're going to change the name of that and make it sound a hell of a lot better than that, because that name's already been stigmatized. But that's where we're going. Everybody in super cities, all controlled, all monitored on the Internet of Things, the big 5-7 running everything. You connected to it. You getting your new VA XX every 6 months or so to upgrade your operating system inside of you. Just one big cyborg hive mind. That's what they're trying to build in these super cities. Transhumanism. That's the goal, is transhumanism. It always has been. Because the enemy cannot create life. So the enemy has to create a fake life through digital, a subhuman life. Why do we do so much on digital? A friend of mine just said that to me last night. She's like, I don't understand. Why did we decide that digital was the way to go? Digital's subhuman. It's below us. And now we do everything on it. It's insane that we do that. Up to and including Googling everything that we can't think of. It's so, like, we've played into this whole thing. We've played into this whole hive mind. How do you think they build the hive mind? Every Google search you put in, when you can't think of something, AI knows exactly what you're thinking about every single time. And you always wonder, how come when I start typing a question in Google, it already knows what I want to ask. It's already filling it in exactly. It does it to me all the time. It's because it's AI and it knows you. And you've exposed yourself too much to it. So I wouldn't even plan on talking about that, but I think it's important to do more thinking for ourselves. Stop relying on Google. If we can't think of something, keep trying to think of it. You know, like we used to have to do. As they say, I'm old enough to remember. I'm old enough to remember when I had to think of things myself. Isn't it funny to even say that out loud? It's crazy. But that's the world we're in. That we're trying to escape. I am. I know I am. So I guess only you know your situation. Only you know the excuses you can make to do nothing. And only you know how to overcome those excuses. Sometimes, God just told me this. Sometimes God only gives us one warning. We get one. That's it. Certain things. And if we don't heed that one warning when we get it and we do nothing, there's consequences and things don't go the way he had planned for us. If we get lazy and complacent, it's happened to me a million times in my life where I just do whatever. Yeah, whatever, God, I'll get to it. Whatever. I got better things to worry about right now. You know, and it really doesn't work that way, because those better things I thought I had to worry about all of a sudden become disasters because I'm not taking heed to that one word I got that I may never get again. And this for you might be that one word. I don't know. It might be the 5th time you've heard this, and it's finally like, wow, yeah, I got to get serious. Because you stay in that city and nothing good is going to come of it. And there's so much land in this world. There is so much land in this country. Yeah, I'm talking specifically to people in the U.S. right now, but I'm not discounting at all people in other countries. Like, it's the same thing applies. I don't even know in the UK anymore. Like I said, I don't pay attention to the news, but I know just from Twitter and the things I see on there, like the UK, man, whew, what a brutal, brutal world that is over there. So I don't know what freedoms you still have to even do this. But if you have them yet, do it. Do it quickly. I was talking to someone who lives in the rural UK a few days ago and has some animals and things like that. I was like, man, that sounds like a really, really perfect setup. Perfect. You're exactly where you need to be. And they're like, yeah, like, I mean, we really haven't had to adjust at all since COVID started, other than going into the cities and you know, towns and seeing all the nonsense. And so that's how it is. Like, when you're in a rural area and not around it all the time and aren't seeing the people, it's as though it doesn't even exist and it doesn't even matter. And that's where we want to go as a society, as a people of our Creator. We want to get away from the world and not even care or know what's going on in it and live our own lives where we are, with who we're with, outside of electronic communication. And just, man, I sound like an Amish, don't I? I sound like an Amish. It's crazy. Maybe I've always been an Amish. I don't know. You know, maybe they've always been right. I think they have been. Because I never understood the dangers and the evils of digital and what digital is doing to humanity. And I guess the Amish always did. They didn't even want electricity. You know, and who knows what's going on with electricity sometimes. There's something spiritual when it comes to electricity. A lot of quote-unquote hauntings and things like that come through electricity. And I've heard stories, you know, so they knew electricity. They just didn't want that in their lives, let alone all the stuff they know. You know, I'm sure Amish now, I don't know. I've never known an Amish person. I've only, you know, there used to be a lot around where I live in here in central Wisconsin. I think they all ended up, there were communities and stuff actually very close to me. It was really cool. I mean, you'd always see horse and buggies going by. I'm out in the country at my parents' house, out in the country, and when I was a kid, I'd walk down the half-mile driveway to the bus or whatever on this little country road, little one-lane country road, and wait for the bus. And almost every morning, the Amish horse and buggy would go by, and I'd wave to him. I knew he was living down in down the road a ways. They had a community. And I always thought it was cool, but I always thought they were kind of crazy too. Like, why wouldn't you want the conveniences of real life? Real life, as I used to call it. Why would you want to make things harder on yourself? And I bet you, I bet you they've been a heck of a lot happier if they've stayed away from digital. I don't know. Maybe only the hardcore old school ones do now. Who knows? But if they've stayed away from digital, I guarantee you they're happier than we are. I know they are, because the more I stay away from digital, happier I am, for sure. So, so my situation with all of this, anyway, I want you really to put some thought into it and what you can do to get out as soon as you can in a reasonable way. Pray about it. Ask God for some ideas or to bring some people to you, to direct some people to you. Start, and sometimes it's not about directing people to you. It's about you starting the conversation too. Start a conversation with somebody. I know, even if it's even if it's somebody you don't know in real life. Maybe it's somebody that you've followed on Twitter for 2 years and seem to know their personality real well, and you've chatted here and there, and you have a good, and they believe the things you believe. Well, send them a message, shoot them a message, and just say, hey, I heard this video, take a listen, and let's talk. Like, what do we have some options? Are there things we can do? And a lot of times, I think what you find out is people have more provisions and more options than you think they do. Once you really start thinking about it and thinking about the people you know and people that are on the same page as you and what they own and what you own and what you could put together and all these things. So with me, man, I couldn't be more fortunate where I am. And, I don't know what God's going to do with it, but I think something. I had a vision when I was 17, and it made no sense at the time. I'll get into it some other time. But when I first came to Christ at 17, when I started preaching like a madman, I had a really strong vision. And I remember telling my parents about it, and they're like, wow, that's pretty crazy, And now I look at it and I'm like, I could see this happening. Kind of a teaser, I guess. I'm not going to tell you what it is in this video, but it's probably a little ways off yet. But so yeah, I'm on ever since my ex and I broke up. I'm on my parents, and I love it here. I love it here. The last time I was here, I hated it here because it was my parents, and I wanted to be back in my relationship, and I didn't want to be here, and I didn't want to be working on videos all the time. I wanted just to have a normal life, and I was just a stubborn little asshole, and probably treated my parents like crap for about 6 months back then, last year. And I got back with my girlfriend, and we broke up again, and so here I am. But this time it was more my choice, and with what I had gone through in the last 2 months, that I was with her, and the changes that were happening with me and my relationship with God, and we just went different directions. We've been going different directions for years, trying to patch it together, trying to stop fighting each other and going in opposite ways, and we just couldn't anymore. And so this time I was like, man, I really started to think about it, and I was like, okay, with everything I know that's coming, this isn't the best place for me anyway, and she doesn't want this relationship anymore, and I don't either, and so I went back to my parents, and with a good attitude and in a good walk with my Creator. And I love it here, and it's perfect. It's perfect for what's coming. It's a nice big property, it's got a river, it's got a field, and so who knows what's going to come. But I feel like this is where God wants me right now, and I think, it's so obvious that He wants me here right now, and I think I am nobody special. Never, ever. Just remember that I never claimed to be. I'm not. I'm nobody. I'm nobody at all. And it's just like, I just try to listen to God. I try to listen. My whole life I try to listen, and then I reject it when I hear most times. But when I do listen, it's so obvious when the decision is the right thing. And I think that's how it's going to look for you with getting out of the city and getting into an area, in a simpler area, to slow down your life and slow down your mind and get away from the media and the electronics and all the bombardment. And you'll find how peaceful it is. So peaceful. So peaceful. It's like the rest of who cares? I don't care about Joe Biden. I don't care. You know, it's not relevant to me or any of those people. You know, and I'm only on Twitter and doing what I do on there because ultimately it's really, I care about my fellow humanity. And so I'm blasting these politicians all the time and telling them they're dismissed. I'm just constantly dismissing them. Everything they post, the House Democrats, the House Republicans, I don't care who it is. Everything I reply, you're dismissed. You're dismissed. You work for me and I'm dismissing you. You're fired. You're fired. Right? Isn't that how it's supposed to work? And so that's how I treat them. But if you ever see that, if you follow me on Twitter and you see that, I mean, my Twitter account's still really small because I just opened it like a week and a half ago, and it's just over 400 followers now or something. So you probably, I don't know if you see it or not, but if you ever see me like that, don't think I'm sitting over here all frustrated and losing my mind or anything like that. It's all a strategy. It's all a strategy. Like, we have to approach all this with a strategy and understand what we're doing and why. And taking the power away from the government by telling them that they're dismissed, it takes their power away. And all they have is the perception of power because we give it to them. So if we dismiss them, we take that away. And so that's what I'm doing there. And then I'm questioning every single preacher or pastor. I've followed a bunch of them. And if they post anything about anything, all I'm asking them is, what is your stance on the vaccine? Every single time. And not a single one of them has answered me yet. Not one. Not a single one. The big evangelists, the small town preachers, not one even answers. So that tells me that, but I still want to let their people know that they're hypocrites, that who they're listening to is a hypocrite, you know? Anyway, I think I got sidetracked on that. Maybe spend a little time in prayer tonight about it and ask God where you think he's leading you. Maybe you already have an idea. Like I said, maybe this is just confirmation. It's time. That is go time. Because if you can make a move, it's go time. Just do it. Make the move. You'll be happy you did. And if absolutely nothing happens, if the world goes back to whatever normal used to be overnight, all of a sudden, what have you lost? Nothing. You'll probably find out you much prefer a simple life in a rural setting, back to nature and growing your own food and things like that. So anyway, hope you had a good Monday. Boy, I really bombarded you with videos today. I know I put a bunch, like 3 of them out for my old B System Revealed channel. I put on today 3 very timely ones that I had made last May that got taken down when I lost my B System Revealed channel. So I put 3 of those up. And, you know, I'm just trying to listen to God and what he wants out there. So I hope it's helping you. Have a good rest of your Monday, and we'll speak soon. Peace. Also, one more thing I forgot to say. I want you to go to avoidthemark.com/podcast. Again, avoidthemark.com/podcast. All of these current podcasts are on that link, along with a bunch of my older videos on the videos section, the Mark of the Beast article and things like that. You know, I just don't think YouTube is going to be up that much longer. I'm going to keep using YouTube as my main kind of platform for the podcast, but I'm trying to slowly transition them over to avoidthemark.com/podcast so that if you want to see what I'm talking about and the videos I'm making or podcasts I'm making, you just go straight there. There'll be new ones every day. You can just bookmark it. Matter of fact, you can, I don't know, I've done this before where you can just kind of, you can add it to your home screen, right? Just so it's kind of like an app icon on your home screen. And just you click on the menu when you're on the website, when you're on the podcast page, and click on the area, what do they call it? The hamburger or whatever, the 3 dots. And then you should see add to home screen and just hit that. And then you'll get a link to that right on on your home screen, and so you can just hit that and go straight into my podcast whenever you want. So like I said, I really want to transition over to that more than YouTube, because I don't like YouTube anymore. It restricts what I say. So anyway, with that said, now I can officially say peace.